That's all right. Oh, I got to tell you a story before we go on tomorrow, Victoria, about a t-shirt, but I'll save it for tomorrow. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Before I introduce today's guest, I just want to say I was inspired yesterday by Victoria Moran, who looked adorable wearing a hat. And I thought, God, she looks so cute. I wish I had a hat. And then in the mail, somebody had sent me this hat. Now, if you're wondering what Chibo is, you got to check them out because I partnered with them. They're owned by General Electric, and I'm teaching cooking classes, but it's not just regular cooking classes where you just watch. You cook with me in real time, ask questions. It's fabulous. I just want to show you my new shirt too. It's not just vegan. It's vegan because I give a shit. All right, my bra keeps showing. So you probably have a hint who I'm going to introduce. She's been introducing the actual guests all week because she is the founder of Main Street Vegan Academy. And this is Main Street Vegan Academy Week, where each week we feature one of the over 500 graduates of Main Street Vegan Academy doing a wonderful oil-free cooking demo. But before we introduce today's guest, who's actually been on the show before, but I had no idea she was a graduate. I should have read the bio. We have the founder, Victoria Moran.
Hey, everybody. And thanks again, Chef AJ. This is just so generous and magnanimous. A whole wonderful week that I get to talk about my fabulous Main Street Vegan Academy graduates. I will jump off right after the intro today because I'm actually AWOL from my Raja yoga teacher training class. And we'll get back to that. And one of the things that I see as a presenter and an educator and running a school is how important it is to keep taking classes and keep learning things, because this is how I continue to learn what works and what doesn't. And I think a lot is working at Main Street Vegan Academy because, as Chef AJ said, we have today about 500 graduates in 31 countries on 6 continents, which is pretty cool. And talk about somebody who gets a lot of education. The wonderful presenter and chef that you'll be meeting or re-meeting if you're a Chef AJ fan and you've seen Vicki Brett-Gach on the show before is Vicki Brett-Gach, and she is from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And she has a fabulous culinary blog, Arbor Vegan Kitchen. She is a sugar-free, oil-free certified personal chef, a whole food plant-based culinary instructor, and a master's certified vegan lifestyle coach and educator. And Chef AJ is going to put all of her stuff in the show notes because this woman has got credential after credential after credential, and people keep saying to her, you really ought to write a book. Well, thank goodness she is, and that will be out in the spring or summer, so we're all going to be looking forward to that. And you've seen her recipes in the McDougall newsletter, in the Beet, in Honest Cooking, Barefoot Vegan, the Vegan Friends Cookbook, the Perfectly Plant-Based Recipe Book, and the Main Street Vegan Academy Cookbook. So check out AnnArborVeganKitchen.com when you get a chance. And right now, you've got the chance to hang out with Vicki Brett-Gach. What fabulous thing are you going to be cooking for us today?
Well, thank you so much, Victoria and Chef AJ. It is such a pleasure to be with both of you and everyone today. And I actually am going to be making 3 separate recipes that I think work really well for a winter comfort food meal. And it's just right for this. We have snow in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Right now it is very cold winter day. And I think that so many of us really enjoy comfort food. So that's kind of the emphasis of today. And comfort food really works well with, I think, this way of eating as a plant-based person who wants to expand opportunities for other people to learn about how delicious this food is and how wonderful it is for our health and for every other reason as well, as many of you know. And so I think that the one we're going to start with, vegan mac and cheese, is actually one of the recipes that people in my larger circle of family and friends who are not vegan have been pleasantly surprised that food that they're not familiar with can be this delicious. So this is where we're going to start. And we're going to begin by, I'll just say that pasta is what we're using as our base. If you're a gluten-free person and want to use zoodles or perhaps a brown rice pasta, or some pasta may be made with lentils or quinoa, this is very adjustable. In fact, you don't even need, we're going to start with the cheese sauce. I'm putting it over pasta to turn it into a mac and cheese. But this sauce is wonderful over vegetables, over baked potatoes, over baked sweet potatoes. It's just really creamy and delicious. So let's start with that.
Yeah, and the recipe's already in the show notes. So
recipes in the show notes. And I'm starting, and I gave myself a little head start on this. I'm starting with a sauteed onion that I sauteed just in water. And it took about 5 minutes to turn it this caramelized and golden. And it's just as easy as can be to take, and I know many of you have seen this already, this kind of demo, but we're just basically taking water or broth with a chopped onion or any vegetable that you'd like to saute and cooking it just like you would have when you used oil, but just with water. It takes maybe a couple minutes longer, I find, than using oil, but it is so worth it. And without the oil, you're just so delightfully wonderful to not have that greasy feel on your lips and all the other reasons we want to avoid oil.
Or on your hips, because that's where oil's going to go.
That's right. So we're going to take this onion and just put it into a large container of a Vitamix. If you didn't have a Vitamix, probably a food processor would work almost as well. But a high-powered blender is ideal. Even a blender that is not high-powered will work.
You know, we met at the Henry, I always get those Henry Ford and Henry, was it the Henry Ford Hospital that we met at?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was their demo kitchen, Chef AJ. And you were presenting for the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group, doing a fantastic demo.
And you were my sous, you were my sous chef.
Yes, I was.
You know, it's amazing to me how many people come on this show that I don't want to say that's where you got your start, but it's almost like guaranteed you help me in a demo and you're going to become, not that I'm so great, but what I'm saying is that all this undiscovered talent is from people that were assisting me. So for example, like one year, in 2009, Kathy Fisher is the one that helped me with my McDougall demo. And then you helped me in Detroit, and Carol Levy in New York. And all you guys are just like great chefs, you know? I don't want to say like I gave you your start, but it's like, It's amazing because, you know, they give you people that are really competent and talented, you know?
Well, thank you so much for that. That means so much to me. So I appreciate that very much. We're going to move on to our next ingredient in here. We've got our delightful golden onions. And now we're going to add some raw cashews. I have a cup of raw cashews, but I'm going to tell you that if you don't use nuts, just leave them out. And I actually made this about a week ago without nuts and instead used potatoes. So just a cup of steamed white potato. You could probably use sweet potato instead. You could, of course, you could use white beans. So if you don't use the cashews, you can use beans or potatoes and it'll work just fine. The flavor will still be great. It just has a slightly different texture. This gives it a real creamy texture. So without it, it's a little bit different. So now we're going to put in 1 cup of non-dairy milk, and I'm using plain unsweetened soy milk. You could use almond milk, oat milk, anything you like.
Mark says, Vicki, Mark wants to know if you can saute the onion without water. I think it's going to depend on a person's pan.
It probably will depend on your pan. You need some liquid probably, unless you don't want it to get very caramelized. And that's really a matter of choice too. You could use a raw onion in this. You wouldn't have to saute it. I just like how a sauteed onion kind of takes the bite out of it, but that's up to you. And that's a great question because there's no reason you have to cook the onion. Certainly, you know, you could use a green onion. You could use whatever you like in this. And this is kind of most of these recipes that I create are kind of modular. You can add and subtract to your own taste buds for sure. So now I added 1/2 cup of water, and that's just to kind of keep it nice and thinner so it doesn't get too thick from all these cashews or beans that you might be using. And the next thing I'm putting in is a roasted red pepper. You can take a red pepper or, and roast it in the oven until it's tender or air fry it. I actually just used a shortcut and bought a 12-ounce jar and used 1/2 of it of roasted red pepper. So it's a pantry staple ingredient. After you open it up, you use 1/2 of the jar and put the rest away for another time in the refrigerator. I usually rinse it because I feel like it kind of feels slippery when I take it out of the water that it's sitting in. And so I have rinsed it and I'm just adding it all to the to the Vitamix now. And so you can use either your own roasted or one from a jar. And once you get that all settled in there, when you buy it, if you do go the jar route, make sure it doesn't have any added sugar or oil, because you really don't need that in here. And now I'm adding 1/4 of a cup of nutritional yeast to give it a little bit of a cheesy burst. And now some liquid, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 2 tablespoons of vegetable broth. And again, for my vegetable broth, I'm making sure that there's no sugar or oil added to the broth. I get the kind that is either made by Trader Joe's or by Pacific. I think those are both brands that I like. You can also make your own with just leftover vegetables and boil it up for about half an hour.
Or get a Nutri-Milk machine and put it in raw.
Yes, absolutely. You could do that.
So
now I'm just adding a little yellow mustard. Was there a question?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Or I could do is I could wave it when I have a question. Shane says, where do you find the jar roasted peppers? I see them at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, even the regular grocery store.
I got mine at our regular grocery store, which in Michigan is Kroger, is kind of our main one, but I can also find it at Whole Foods, other little stores as well. It's a very pantry staple, item, and you can find it near the mustards and condiments, basically, where I shop. But sometimes it's in the Italian food section. I've seen it there too. So now we've added 4 tablespoons of liquid, 2 of lemon juice and 2 of a vegetable broth, and 2 teaspoons of just a simple yellow mustard. Sometimes I just squeeze it in by eye and don't measure it. Today I did, but I like a little extra mustard. That's something that if you don't like mustard, you can go kind of scant on that. And then next I'm adding just a little bit of seasoning, so some salt and cayenne pepper. If you don't use salt, no worries, just leave it out, no problem at all.
Yeah, that's the thing. People make such a big deal about salt, but you can leave it out or put it in. You know what I mean?
Leave it out, put it in. It's completely up to you. And so many people avoid salt, and it's very important to them to do that. And I'm all for that. So we just do whatever we need to do to make it exactly what you need.
And you know what I wish, Vicki, though? The hardest thing is for people that can't have nutritional yeast. There's some people that just either they're allergic or it causes some gut dysbiosis. Somebody needs to invent a flavoring that will give the cheese sauce that oomph. But you know what I mean?
I do. That has a nice kind of background flavor, but I think you could leave it out. I don't think it's that super important. Maybe you could use a little miso. I don't know. But it's, kind of adds a little sour.
It's that umami. So yeah, I mean, I have a cheese sauce called One Sauce that's no nutritional yeast, but it would be nice if there was something, I don't know, like a mushroom powder or something that would give you that without, for the people that can't have it.
Yes, it would. And maybe we can talk to somebody about that. Somebody ought to be creating that in their, all the spice, the spicery.
Oh my God. We have to talk to Nick from Local Spicery. He's the guy. If anybody can do it, he can. Yep.
Great idea. All right, now I'm going to turn this on. It's going to make noise for a minute. So bear with me. We're going to make this nice and creamy. That's it. We are done. Our sauce is ready. It's basically almost a no-cook sauce except for that onion. And then it turns this cheesy, wonderful color that is really just beautiful because of the roasted red peppers that turn it so orange. And I know there's lots. I saw that this past week or so, Chef AJ, you've had several different versions of mac and cheese-ish type things. And they're all a little bit different and they have some things in common for sure. But this sauce is just so creamy and wonderful. It's just delightful for something like this time of year. So now I have some whole wheat pasta that I just made right before we went on, so it would be ready. And I'm just using a rotini, a curly noodle. You could use anything you like. And I'm going to put it into a dish, a serving dish. You could make individual ramekins or a large casserole, whatever you like. and make it as full or scant as you care to. I'm just going to add some more of this pasta, which is nice and warm, to this dish. And now here comes the magic, because we're going to pour this sauce on top. And it's so creamy and gooey and delicious. And this, as I mentioned, is so good over potatoes. It's such a good sauce that I've had people tell me that I have cooked with that they could practically drink this from a cup. And any extras you can put into a jar and keep in the refrigerator like this for another day. But I'm just going to make this nice and gooey. And you have two choices at this point. One is, if your pasta is hot, you could go ahead and enjoy it just like this, because the sauce will become warm from your hot pasta. But if your pasta is not very warm, maybe you have it left over, you cooked it earlier in the day, then you might want to warm this in the oven. And the instructions I have in the notes are to bake it. When I first started making this, I always baked it. And I bake it for about 20 minutes at 375 or 400. But after I did that a couple of times, my daughter had the suggestion to just enjoy this straight like this without baking it, because it's even creamier. After we bake it, some of the sauce gets absorbed by the pasta, and then the pasta becomes chewy and wonderful. It has this other wonderful aspect because it is a baked pasta, which is so magical. But you can do it either way. So here we have our wonderful dish ready to go. I'm going to pop it in the oven while I make our salad dressing, and then we can see it both ways.
Have you ever frozen the cheese sauce, Vicki?
You can freeze it beautifully. It's really a great sauce to freeze. With real cheese sauce, it would be hard to do because it would separate, but this works beautifully. In fact, I like to use these super cubes and freeze the sauce in 1 cup blocks, pop them out. These are silicone. You pop them out, just stick it into a Ziploc bag, and just thaw 1 or 2 of these at a time to enjoy sauce on whatever you like anytime. So this is a sauce that is kind of one of my mother's sauces. I have this on hand all the time. And you can add vegetables to this, pasta, or straight like this. And I think this is nice for your family on a cozy winter night, but it's also nice for a date night. Maybe Valentine's Day is coming up. This is just kind of a nice cozy dinner for an in-home date night. So there's our mac and cheese. We're going to take a peek at it when it comes out of the oven as well. And now we're going to go on to our dressing, which is a Beet Caesar dressing. And I have to tell you, I'm so excited about this dressing. I just discovered making this version about 3 weeks ago, but I've probably made it 5 times since then. And we're going to start with a recipe that I have actually on my blog on Arbor Vegan Kitchen that I call a Caesar dressing, which was such a wonderful discovery for me when I created it, because Caesar dressing was one of the things I missed most when I first became vegan. I just used to love how creamy and flavorful it was over greens. And so we're going to build a version of this now, but the only difference is it's got beets in it as well. So we're going to start with 1/2 cup of raw cashews. Now, I mentioned that we use cashews before in our cheese sauce as well. And if you don't have a high-powered blender, you might want to soak these ahead if you're using a regular blender for an hour or 2. I know some people say that, but in a Vitamix, you don't need to. So that is one advantage. And again, if you don't use nuts, just use beans or potatoes in this instead. So we're going to put 1/2 cup of nuts, raw cashews, 1/2 cup of water, and then we're going to put some lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, some brown mustard, so a different kind of mustard this time, but you could use any kind you like. And then some seasoning. So I'm putting in a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Use less if you don't like that bite. I really do. You can use, and then also a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt if you use salt, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder, or more if you like more garlic. So we're just going to add all that as well. And then here's the fun part. I'm adding 1 small roasted beet. So this is a beet that I had in the oven for about an hour at 375, and I cut a piece off. You could use more if you want. It'll just be a brighter color, but it adds a fabulous sweetness and turns into this marvelous color. So I'm calling it a small roasted beet. And by the way, you could get the beets that are already prepared in the produce section, and those would work as well. But if you are creating the small beet, the amount that I'm using, it's just right around 1 to 1.5 ounces of a beet. So a very small amount. Now we're going to turn this sauce, this mixture, into our dressing. And we're going to make our Beet Caesar dressing. So this is very exciting. Here we go. And we are done. And now we have a Beet Caesar dressing that looks like this.
That is so beautiful.
Look at that color. I know, I just love it. So I have to tell you that I didn't used to even like beets. I disliked beets until my palate changed by eating this way. And over the last couple of years, I've learned not only to like beets a little bit, but to love them. So they're on my shopping list every week now. So this is one of the things I do with extra beets. So I'm turning it into a beautiful dressing. So here's what we're going to do. Now that we've got our dressing already with this fabulous color, we're going to just put it on the salad. So I'm going to take this beautiful bowl. I just have to give credit to the Holland Bowl Mill for this beautiful bowl that thank you so much to Corey. It's engraved on the bottom. It says Arbor Vegan Kitchen. And he's actually given me a link, which should be in the show notes, to share in case anyone wants to get a beautiful bowl. This is a 15-inch bowl called the Ebonized Cherry with the black outside that is created with an iron mixture of, vinegar and steel wool, I believe is what does this beautiful patina. And he has given me a link, so it's in the show notes if anybody wants to order a bowl. This is the 15-inch. You get a free mezzaluna with that link, which normally this is $20. And they do free engraving as well, so I just love it.
Sherry says, do you have... Oh, sorry.
For making a chopped salad. So we're going to use this bowl for our beautiful salad. Go ahead, Chef A.
Oh, sorry. Sherry says, do you have to soak your cashews before using them in these recipes?
You do not have to soak them. That's a great question. You do not have to soak them if you use a high-powered blender like a Vitamix. But if you use a normal blender that is not considered so powerful, it would be a good idea to soak them so that they don't have too much of a grainy texture. It'll help pulverize them more.
Great. And Sheila says, how do you keep your pasta from sticking together before adding it to the cheese sauce?
So you know what I did? Normally I just prepare my pasta right before using it. And I just wanted it to be ready for a little head start today. I just rinsed it, or I shouldn't say rinsed it. I drained it, and then I let it sit for just a little while, and then I gave it a stir with a wooden spoon to just kind of loosen it up so it didn't stick together as a single blob, because I know it will do that. So now we've got our beautiful salad. This is just simple greens of romaine lettuce and radicchio. And to this, I'm going to add, before I put my dressing on, a couple things. You can add anything to a salad like this because it'd be fantastic with, tomatoes, cucumbers, whatever you've got on hand. But here's what my new favorite is. I'm putting steamed Brussels sprouts on top of my salad. So I steamed these. I know, of course, you can air fry or do other wonderful things, But I just love putting Brussels sprouts, quartered Brussels sprouts that I have steamed. I use the same pan that I did the onions in, and I have a steamer that fits on top of that pan to steam the Brussels sprouts in. So that is how I steamed these this morning, using this steamer that fits on a skillet.
So Vicki Stacy Anderson, who also is a graduate from MSVA, she was a wonderful guest on Monday. She said, Vicki, she says, do you find that when you use potatoes instead of cashews, that the potatoes get very sticky and gooey?
I do not find that. I didn't have that problem at all. I don't usually do that, but I did it just to test it out this week, and I found that it was just really nice and creamy. Not as creamy as with the cashews, but I didn't find it got pasty at all or sticky. So I didn't have that trouble, but I know some people have asked about that. You certainly can use beans instead. So now we've got our Brussels sprouts on top of our salad just to add a little extra wonderfulness to it. And then the next thing I'm going to do, and these are all optional because just the greens is plenty, but I did some air fried tempeh that I'm going to just add to the top of this as well. And this is a recipe I actually have coming out in a couple of weeks on my blog. So for this recipe, you may want to subscribe to Arbor Vegan Kitchen, and this will be coming out very soon. And it is actually, it's a very simple sauce. I'll kind of tell you what I did. I took just a 8-ounce block of tempeh, cut it into little pieces, and then I made a little marinade with Date Lady barbecue sauce, which is so flavorful without any sugar, and a couple of dashes of hot sauce and mustard, and 2 tablespoons of California balsamic 7-herb Italian vinegar. And I mixed those all together, created a real easy marinade with the tempeh, then air fried it at 400 for about 12 minutes, and then took it right out and put it into the remainder of that sauce to just get coated extra good and rich with all of this sauce. And then here we have our salad with the tempeh on it now. And that just turns it into a huge, wonderful meal. And now we've got our dressing that we're going to just cover our beautiful salad with. And we've made more dressing than we're going to use today, so the rest can just go into a jar for another day this week. But this color I just can't get over.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It'd be perfect for Valentine's Day.
Yes. And so that is our salad.
Gorgeous.
With the beets dressing. And now our pasta has just given me the okay that it's ready to take out. So let's just see how that looks now. All ready to go, our baked pasta. And so now we can just create a little platter. Here you could have your pasta. With a nice amount of some salad on top. Here, let's grab some tongs. And we have a lovely dinner.
Your family is so lucky.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chef AJ. I'll tell them you said so.
I don't know. A lot of times, I wonder, like people always say to Charles, you're so lucky. Sometimes when you have something you don't really appreciate and other people have to come in and mention it.
Well, thank you for that. I love hearing that.
So
we're going to set this aside.
How are you making progress with your book? Are you allowed to say the title yet or when it's coming
No,
out?
I've got a working title and it's not finalized yet, but we're hoping to kind of finalize things next week. And so far it's looking like it may be plant-based for life.
Plant-based for life. Well, yeah, I'll mill it around in my head. Plant-based for life or
Yes.
Forever, even after you're dead.
Forever, I like it.
Yeah.
All right, now we're ready for our dessert. Now that we've got our Beet Caesar dressing and our mac and cheese all ready, it's time for a little something sweet, little tiny treat at the end. So here, I'm going to grab this tray, what we're going to use for that. And now we're going to be using a food processor instead of the Vitamix. So let me just adjust for a second here to bring that forward. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to make a chocolate peanut butter truffle. And to me, these are kind of a healthy version of something as decadent as a Reese's peanut butter cup. And the kind that, this is the kind that makes you feel really good instead of bad. So we're using just the S blade inside of a large food processor bowl, and everything gets dumped inside. So we're going to put in 1 cup of dates. I'm using pitted dates already. Any kind of date works. You want them pitted, of course. And then we're adding 1/2 cup of a natural peanut butter. So that's going to mean the kind that is just made with nuts. Just made with peanut butter, just made with peanuts, not just made with peanut butter. Well, of course, it becomes peanut butter. So we do not want any added oils or sugars or anything like that, because that really changes what we're eating. So I'm putting all this lovely natural peanut butter in here. And then we're going to add a couple other things. So now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of cocoa or cacao powder and 3 tablespoons of peanut powder, which is just a single ingredient food that you can get from several places. You can get it online. You can get it at Trader Joe's. You can get it at the grocery store even now. Again, I'm making sure that the kind I'm using, as I mentioned, is from Trader Joe's. It's just peanut powder. It's made just with peanuts. But there are ones out there that do have a lot of other things, sugar and oils added. So watch the label to make sure you're getting what you want to. And then we're adding just a little bit of vanilla bean powder, which I learned about from Chef AJ.
Yeah, it's the best. You don't go back to extract once you get the powder. It's just, so good.
So good.
Linda's saying, did you soak your dates?
I did not. They're pretty fresh, so I didn't do that. But if they were on the drier side, I might want to do that. So I've added 1/2 teaspoon of the kind of a generous 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder. If you don't have vanilla powder, you can use extract, just use about a teaspoon of it. And then a pinch of salt if you wanted to. And now I'm going to blend this into a nice batter. So now we'll take a look, just do one more pulse. And that's it.
So Vicki, Stacy says, what are those white rectangular sheets with the yellow square in the corner?
Yellow square over here on the table. These right here.
Maybe that's your show notes.
Yeah, these are just my notes to myself to make sure that I had all my ingredients ready.
Yeah, all you people watching on Facebook that asking about her website and recipes and show notes, you gotta hop over to YouTube. That's where all the action is and everything is always there. There's no place to put it on Facebook. So go to my YouTube channel and watch there if you can, because Facebook sometimes doesn't stream this anyway. So please go to YouTube and everything you need is there.
So now we've got our batter that looks kind of like a brownie batter that is all mixed together with all that peanut butter, dates, and peanut powder, and cocoa powder, and vanilla. And now we've got this lovely kind of soft batter, just cookie dough type of texture. And we are ready to create our truffles, which are just going to be so delicious. So we can just use our fingers if they're clean, or you can use a scoop if you want them all exactly the same. And I say in my notes to put it on a silicone pad because it tends to be kind of sticky. I'm skipping that step today, but you can certainly use a nice little piece of parchment paper or silicone mat to make sure that nothing sticks when you're putting these little truffles down. But I'm using the scoop to get me started. Let's move things out of the way so you can see. And I'm going to put together a few of these little truffles, and they're ready to enjoy right now. But I have one little step I like to do before I call them done. And that is to roll them into something that will kind of create a lovely texture on the outside. And you have a lot of different choices. Today, I'm going to roll them in crushed, dry roasted, unsalted peanuts in just a second to kind of add to that Reese's peanut butter feel. But these would also be really good with rolled in coconut or a different kind of nut like an almond or a hazelnut that was toasted, or even I've done this, rolled these just in plain cocoa. So a little different kind of texture, or cacao nibs. So whatever you like, or even a combination would be fun to play with. And it's nice to do different variations as well so that you've got a couple of different choices. And then I'm going to just take each of these and roll it in the peanut mixture, or crushed peanuts, I should say, and stick them right back on this platter. And what I love about this, not only it's super easy if you need a last minute dessert, but it's really satisfying because of the dates and nuts and cocoa for a little, indulgent treat that you feel good about. So if you just wanted a bite or two, this will just really do the trick. And I love to freeze these. These are so good. They kind of are half frozen when you freeze them and pull them out. They're ready to just enjoy even when they're still really cold. And they look like this. I'll show you just right now.
Gloria says, could you have used the Vitamix to make this?
So I think you could. There's no reason why you couldn't use a Vitamix, and that's a very fair question. But using the food processor, I think, makes them a little easier to get out. And this is how wonderful they look, and they're ready to serve and eat at room temperature, or even better, refrigerated or frozen. And you can keep them frozen for, several weeks even. And so this is another thing that I often have in the freezer just for, after a Sunday dinner where I've got my son and daughter here and everyone is saying, is there any dessert? And maybe I forgot to make dessert that day. I can just pull a few of these out and everyone's happy.
I find that the food processor and Vitamix are not interchangeable because it, like you say, the Vitamix really requires some kind of liquid to process, and it's just too hard to get it out.
I agree with that. And I think this batter is fairly dry. So it does help kind of keeping that blade and all the ingredients spread out in a wider circumference. I think makes this work better in that. But it will do the mixing for you. It's just you're going to be using that tamper quite a lot, and you may have to add more liquid in order for it to really blend well. And then you'll maybe have a little trouble getting it out of the container.
Nutrimilk machine would work for sure, JL, because that's more like a food processor. So when is your book coming out? Do you know?
Well, thank you for asking, Chef AJ. I have a meeting this week with my publisher. We're hoping end of spring or summer, something in that range. That's what we're on target for right now, and I can keep you posted.
Okay, who's your publisher?
It is Brooklyn Writers Press.
Nice. And
Yes.
make sure you get on the schedule for when it like the week it comes out. Let me know so we can have a launch,
Absolutely. Love to do that.
Yeah, because it's so funny. You're already booked on the show for March, because one of the times you came on, I think you were filling in. You're like on the cancel list, but you actually have a date in March that you're coming on just anyway.
I do. I didn't even realize that. I thought that we moved that one to October, but we'll have to double check.
Well, I think hold on. I think you're scheduled. I mean, if you don't want it, I got a lot of people chomping at the bit, but I'm pretty sure.
Take a spot if you need somebody else there, but that would be fun.
I saw your name somewhere. March. I see your name on Monday, March 8th.
Well, okay, very good.
Sandy says,
Excellent.
I will buy the book. Yep.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with the book. We're really doing lots of fun things.
Plant-based for life. I like plant-based forever more than for life, because I don't know why, but ask them plant-based forever. It sounds like it's longer.
It does. I like it.
You can have it.
Very good. Thank you. I will. We'll talk about that one tomorrow. So we've got our peanut butter balls, peanut butter truffles. And this is really, as I say, really nice to have in the freezer. And this is going to make a few more. It actually makes, I think about, I'm just looking at my notes, about 20 of them. And depending on how big you make them, you can make them any size you like. And as I mentioned, you can really blend, you can have them be in different kinds of toppings, so that you've got a row of ones dipped in crushed peanuts, and one in coconut, or one in, dried berries, whatever you like. So freeze-dried strawberries, something like that would be fun as well. Can turn into a peanut butter and jelly truffle.
Yeah, those are great. And it's amazing. You do so many recipes, and it's been like a half an hour. You've got dinner and dessert.
We have dinner and dessert, yes. So here again is our mac and cheese with our salad, our air fried tempeh, and our peanut butter chocolate truffles.
Wow. You are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks. If you guys have any more questions for Vicki, I'll ask them. Otherwise, I'll let her go and eat her delicious food. Lucky her. Yeah.
I love your hat, Chef AJ.
Me too. I've never worn a hat like this, but man, I think it might be my new thing,
Very cute.
Yeah, Mandy says Vicki is a great chef. I agree. Very great. JL suggesting plant-based for the planet. So, yep, absolutely.
Very good.
Well, wow. Well, thanks, Vicki. This is great. And she's coming back. Mark your calendar, March 8th. That's a Monday. Who knows what she'll make for us? Got any requests? Maybe put them in the chat and she'll see them, and then maybe she'll make that. But check out her blog. Her blog is beautiful. Karen says, is that a Polish pottery dish that your truffles are in?
This is actually from QVC. It is their Temptations little trays. They call them squovels, I think, square ovals. And I just like the shape. So yeah, it came as a little set.
Nice. All right. People keep asking, because this is a YouTube show, but I stream it on Facebook when it will work. And people keep asking the same thing. Where is everything? It's on YouTube. Go to YouTube. It's already there. Show notes, website, everything. I typed it in myself. So yeah. Mary Lou says, Vicki is organized and the food has a good presentation. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. So yes, please come to my Arbor Vegan Kitchen blog and subscribe so that you can get the recipe to the tempeh if you like. And I have mocha brownies coming up in just about a week. So yeah, I'd love to have you and look forward to being back, Chef AJ. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait till your book comes out. That's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited too.
Yeah, and Marion from PBNSG was watching.
Hi, Marion. How are you?
Yep. PB, and you made PB, peanut butter, so that's great.
Yes,
well, Well, thanks again, Vicki, and thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when we have two shows. We haven't had a double header in a while, but at 11 a.m. we have Victoria Moran, who's going to be wrapping up Main Street Vegan Academy a week and talking about why all of these graduates that she had on are so awesome, and her work in general and her academy. And at 2 p.m., we're bringing back a guest that was one of my favorite episodes because it was so poignant. Sarah Taylor, who is a long-term vegan advocate and author who is living with brain cancer, and she is one of the most inspiring people you will meet. So thanks again, Vicki. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, AJ.
Take care, everybody.